Today we're going to be talking about maximizing profitability in construction and have a great cast here today that come from different areas of the construction industry, all in technology, but I'm very excited to have these people here with me today. I'll have everybody go around and introduce themselves first. I can start with Shannon, then Joel, and then Kendall. Shannon, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do today and how you're involved in the construction industry.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you for having me. My name's Shannon Ward. I am a sales account manager with Strategies Group and have been doing this for 28-ish years, selling construction accounting software, ERP, estimating, project management, anything technology related to construction.
Awesome. And Joel?
Yeah, Selena, appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm Joel Hoffman with Acumatica. I'm the Director of Product Management for the Construction Edition at Acumatica. I'm coming up on 6 years at Acumatica, but I've been in the construction technology space for several decades, like Shannon, starting out from programming to support to now product management and really all run the gamut back in those days, if you will. And it's just great to see the adoption of technology within construction. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. And Kendall?
Hi, my name's Kendall Campbell. I am currently with Stack. I'm a partner executive and I really focus on building and managing high impact partnerships within the construction tech industry. I think if I tried to say that I have also been doing this for quite a few decades, you guys might know I'm lying, so I won't try to say that.
Well, thank you all for joining me today. I'm really excited about this conversation. I wanted to start with what the power of data-driven decisions really can be for a construction executive. I know we're always talking about how to use data in your business and the importance of data in projecting for the future, but what does that really mean? Is it a bunch of buzzwords? I want to start with you, Joel. With your experience in the construction industry and being in all facets of the tech, what are the most common blind spots in data that you see construction companies face, and how can they overcome those blind spots to make smarter decisions in their
Yeah, sure.
business?
And really, as we're dealing with things and what I've seen over the years is how the construction businesses themselves, what do they have visibility into from a project profitability, but really more importantly, any kind of profit fade. Because from a technology side, if the data is not up to date, decisions get delayed or it's off of inaccurate information, those things lead to the cost overruns, missed deadlines, and really this revenue loss and overall project success. So as we're looking at that data driven, really what people need to have now and what I see our customers wanting is really that real time information and how can we take things that might have been in disparate systems in their legacy software. Now we're getting up to the cloud versions and different technologies, bring all that data together because as a connected company, then the data itself helps drive those decisions, empowers the employees, and really helps them make those decisions quickly. It's really that real-time data that people need.
Yeah, 100%. So, going off of what you said, Joel, that kind of brings me to Shannon. Um, Joel, you mentioned the disconnected systems. Shannon, a lot of companies struggle with those disconnected systems that prevent them from accessing that real-time data that Joel was talking about. What are some key steps that a company should take when they're experiencing this sort of situation where they have data silos to unify their finances and operations for better business making decisions?
Yeah, going just completely taking on what Joel was talking about. Um, Labor and labor costs are probably one of the biggest risks that any contractor faces.
Mhm.
Um, eh, we see so many companies that when they first start, they start making their decisions on technology based on fixing little areas of their company. So they say, ooh, we need to start collecting time in the field. So they go out and they buy a time solution without any thought as to whether or not that time solution connects to anything else. Or they go out and they buy a project management solution without thinking about whether or not that ties to anything else, or an estimating solution or anything like that. And before you know it, the little 2, 5, $8 million company has become a $20 million company, and they have 8, 10 different systems that none of them talk. And then they come to us to, look at new solutions. And we have to kind of do a little bit of education around what that world could look like with everything being connected. So if I was to give kind of a tip on the steps that they could take, would be starting early on, trying to build a tech stack of solutions that are integrated, that talk to each other well, and that all can provide data for you to make those better decisions in a singular type format. Even if they're different applications, that's perfectly fine, but making sure that all of that is talking and putting information into a single place to distribute, and to distribute that information out to the people that need to make decisions.
Yeah, it has to be cohesive. It has to talk to each other and yeah, make sure you're not in silos. So yeah,
Yeah.
100% Shannon. So that kind of takes me into Kendall's question. How have you seen data-driven decision-making impact a company's profitability? Being in the estimating space, you're talking about profitability all the time. That's your goal for your end user. What role do you see strategic partnerships playing in ensuring companies having the right access to tools and insights on your end, Kendall?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I try to utilize some numbers and some statistics. So I'll spit a little bit out at you guys today. Reason being is partnerships is still trying to get their name and their footing as not being a soft thing and actually having data-driven results themselves. So the role of data is, here's the facts, is 90% of construction data is unstructured and 95% of that data goes unanalyzed. And this is all according to some Deloitte studies. If you can't improve your processes and you're not measuring or tracking data, then you really don't have anything. If companies are able to control their data and analyze that data, they'll see an average of 50% increases in profit growth each year. They'll gain real-time visibility into the faults that they aren't able to see in their workflows. They can reduce costs from everything from rework or just poorly estimated jobs. And the use of advanced technologies, partnering with companies that provide AI capabilities, allows people to build a long-term tech stack into the future. So strategic partnerships helps seamlessly integrate systems of processes. It provides a centralized platform for data management. It helps combine different companies, integrate the data between them, and as Shannon said, prevent silos. For example, Stack and Acumatica, you can seamlessly operate between estimating, pre-construction management, accounting. Not only is this saving you time, which time is money, but it's also minimizing mistakes. And mistakes in the construction industry are one of the most costly things. So that's how kind of partnerships helps with data-driven decision making.
Yeah, and just to go one step further with that, us at Strategies Group, we only partner with solutions that integrate with Acumatica. So us as the reseller, as your partner in your implementation process, are being mindful of those data silos that you might have seen before moving to Acumatica, and we're trying to get you out of those. So that's the glory of working with a value-added reseller, is that they're really going to be in tune with which solutions actually talk to your ERP, and how are you going to be able to have one view of all of the data in your business. So yeah, that was so well put, Kendall, especially with how Acumatica and Stack have now really ramped up working together. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit more into Kendall's neck of the woods on estimating. This is kind of part two of maximizing profitability. How I want to talk about how we're optimizing estimating processes in construction. So, Kendall, uh, pre-construction and estimating are so critical for profitability. What are the biggest mistakes contractors make in the estimating phase, and how can Stack or any estimating technology help ensure bids are competitive but still profitable?
Yeah. I would break this down into three categories, and I'll explain a little bit on each. It's using the wrong tech, it's underbidding. Those are two things that can really have a negative impact. So if you're using the wrong tech, like for example, an on-premise system, it's disconnected and it's inflexible. They were great at the time that they were created, but as technology continues to grow and evolve, it's evolving faster than a lot of companies are able to keep up with. You've got to migrate your business to the cloud in order to be able to keep your business up to date with the technology that's there. So if you're using the wrong tech, it's going to lead to estimating errors, IT failures, rework, increased operational costs, and poor productivity. When your systems can't integrate, you have poor data quality. And as we just said in the last question, data is the key to success for these organizations. Underbidding isn't talked about enough. And intentional underbidding. So, for example, submitting the lowest bid to try to secure the job. You secure the job with a guarantee to lose profits. So, if you're not able to see and report on what bids are successful, what projects you're making profits on, you're just going to be in this cycle where you're continuing to underbid to try to get jobs, but you're not actually increasing your profits. That's not something Stack can really tell you alone. We need Acumatica in order to help tell us that information. By combining your estimate data with your financial data in Acumatica, you can see where the inaccuracies are, and you can say, hey, I'm actually not going to underbid on this project. If I can't get this project at what it's going to cost me, I'm actually worse off. And you need that integrated data between your pre-construction and your ERP to tell you that. What you can do is you can use the right tech to ensure competitive bids. So not saying just stop bidding altogether, obviously, but if you want to establish an integrated tech stack, you actually can ensure long-term success. When you're using the right stuff, you can better plan, allowing you to scale without disrupting your profits. And this success starts in the cloud. You've got to be able to have your data easily accessible to you to be able to make quick decisions. Stack's 100% cloud-based, so is Acumatica. We're able to offer all of this with, open APIs, AI, all of the things that people care about today. So that's how we can help make you profitable. It all goes back to data and the cloud.
Yeah. I mean, the cloud makes the world go around, doesn't it? But Kendall, I like how you touched on the underbidding aspect. I think a lot of the times, especially when construction companies are ramping up, they're growing to that higher revenue standpoint. They're trying to get more jobs. They're definitely underbidding to get in with certain owners and certain general contractors that they might want to work with. and then they see themselves falling behind on the revenue end. So that kind of takes me over to Joel. In how can Acumatica improve the estimating accuracy with this new integration to Stack? How can we help improve construction firms and avoid costly estimation errors?
Yeah, so Kendall brought up a great point for underbidding and just
Mhm.
getting your profitability. Because if you think of when the estimate is created, right, they're coming up. What materials do we need? How much labor do we need? What are we going to subcontract out? Pulling all those components of the project together into the overall estimate. But then when you're awarded the work, how do you know if you're hitting the mark? Are you hitting the profit that you thought you'd get when you did the estimate and did the bid? Now being able to take a material list from the estimate and say, oh, these are all the things I need to order. Or do I have them? Right. So now that's where the ERP can come into play and say, you told me you needed these materials, or you want these materials for the estimate. Now let's see what we need to do. Let's start the procurement process, bring that in, and not only for materials, but if you think of the labor, right? As Shannon mentioned, labor costs early on, the estimate's going to have an idea. Hey, it takes this many hours to pour this concrete or build this wall, right? So now, as that job cost information comes from the estimate, gets into something like Acumatica. Now Acumatica is tracking the individual cost, and we're able to feed that back to Stack. So now that when you're looking at the estimates, how do we do? Did the estimator hit the mark for what we wanted for the particular phase of a project? Or now take those costs, and it helps the estimators themselves. Now the next time they're looking at saying, well, how long did it take us to do this type of work? And you're talking about the underbidding or getting into new markets. They might not know initially what they need to do or what it's going to cost. Now they have the information coming from the ERP, being Acumatica. I know how much labor costs were. I know what the materials cost. Now let's help build a more accurate estimate and just start, as you're doing those estimates and the new projects, just taking all that information from the ERP, and now being able to channel that back for future estimate profitability analysis, because we'll send back the costs and they can look and see, does this estimator, because if you have multiple estimators too, who maybe overbids or underbids, maybe there's somebody that just needs some help. That, okay, when you're putting the estimate together, let's verify your numbers. But I also find estimating solutions really can come into play from the change management side of things.
Mhm.
If you think of the plans that are in the estimates now, being able to look at what changed, or now if I'm coming up and maybe you underbid because a wall moved or you didn't see it initially, now you get the ability to recognize the changes, roll that into the change orders, which hopefully are going to have more profit for you. So that's where the ERP and the estimating solution can really work together to say, what do we think and what do we initially budget for? Where do we end up? What are we doing? And then take that same cost dynamic back to estimates to then just keep building. And as they do it, the estimators certainly can then start to refine the quotes moving forward. And then that refinement even leads to the more profit or better cost methods. And that's really how the ERP and the estimating can work together for those different areas.
Yeah, I think also like based on all of what you just said, it really is just helping streamline that finance department and the pre-con department working better together. I know a lot of companies struggle with those two departments kind of battling it out a lot. Or finance versus operations, finance versus estimating. It's always that kind of conversation around the struggles in construction. So I feel like integrations like these will help at least put a band-aid over that long-term struggle, that long battle that's been happening in construction companies. So Shannon, you've helped a lot of construction companies transition to new software solutions, estimating solutions, ERP solutions, all of those things. What are some key estimating related inefficiencies that you've seen? And what do you think are some practical steps that companies can take to fix those those, whether that be technology related, whether that just be internal fixes that they could make.
Yeah, and I'm going to use an example. We're going to use a guy named Joe, our guy estimating for the past 30 years. We're going to use him as our example today.
I think we all
Um,
know Joe.
yeah, we all know Joe. Um, First of all, it is amazing to me the number of companies, and I actually was thinking about this the other day. I probably at this point have either been in a sales cycle or sold construction, accounting, estimating, project management software to 1,000 companies at this point. Um, and it is amazing to me the number of companies that I've sat down with who do not use the historical data from their ERP system to update their estimating system. Um, and there's a number of reasons for that. One, it could be the disconnectedness between an estimating system and an accounting system. Unfortunately, it can also be a little bit of ego. Our buddy Joe, who's been doing this for 30 years, if you walk into a room and say, I got to pour this slab, Joe will tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know how much that's going to cost. Um, and he may even write it down on the back of a napkin somewhere and say, "Hey, this is 100 by, this is 100 by 50 foot slab, it's 8 inches deep. That's going to calculate out to this many cubic yards of concrete. We've got rebar, we've got moist top barrier. Oh, it's going to cost this much." And he is doing that totally off the top of his head. When in their accounting system, they have poured this same slab 100 times over the past 2 years, 3 years. They don't go and use the historical data that says this is how much the labor costs, this is how much the material costs, this is how much everything was, and update that in their estimating system. So the connectivity, that's a beautiful thing that we can do to utilize that historical data back into Stack and allow them to be estimating with their most current information so that but Joe gets to still use his ego, because the other key element that I would point out is that I often see where you'll have the Joe of the company, and then you'll have Sarah and Steve, who just came out of Auburn or Georgia Tech construction class. They've just joined the company. They really only learned about estimating in their classes. They don't have a whole lot of real world experience, so they can't throw that on the back of a napkin. But they're also figuring themselves out, and they're trying to figure out their job. One thing that Joe can do is utilize a system like Stack to program in a particular methodology of how to estimate, and then make that repeatable across your other estimators in your company. So your most experienced estimator has that ability to influence the way that the young generation coming into that estimating world does their job. So they are starting off with all the tools they need. They just have to learn some of that feel. There is no way to learn that without the real world experience of doing it, but at least they're starting in a much more progressed stamped place of knowledge and information available to them to better do that, rather than making a bunch of rookie mistakes. They're going to make rookie mistakes, but let's minimize those mistakes by utilizing Joe's experience built into the system so that they can estimate the way it's been done.
I want to add something to that, Shannon, that I don't know if you're aware of. It touches really perfectly on something that we do for this exact reason. Stack offers free estimating and takeoff to anyone in university, anyone in school.
Awesome.
It's something that we've been doing forever that really sets us apart. Is we feel that we have a duty to help shape the construction industry, and a lot of that starts with the people who are in school for construction. I'm not sure why you use Georgia Tech or Auburn, knowing that we are both University of Georgia Bulldogs. But nonetheless, we offer this to anyone, no matter what school they're at. We want to help shape the young estimators. We've got a ton of experience that we feel like our program has adapted and absorbed and built in. So young people coming up use Stack. We offer this as a free resource to help teach and guide people. And it's been really impactful. So
Yeah, it is unfortunate that we have three bulldogs and one
Yeah.
Nittany lion on the call here. You're underserved, Joel.
We are, Joel. Um, so I actually didn't know that, Kendall. I didn't know that you guys offer that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
Acumatica's got into some university programs too, just the
Yes.
for the
Yeah.
construction financial side of things and partnering that way too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think the sooner that these students have access to this type of um, software that they're going to be using out in their everyday lives, like the better. And that the fact that Acumatica and Stack are offering that to them at the college level for free is just such an amazing thing, and I think more people need to be aware of that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Kendall, and we'll probably talk about it further and see how we can expand that. So going off of that, you're talking about repetitive processes, Shannon, how you can take the information that your experienced estimators know, the experience Joe has, and taking it across the whole industry. So how do we take these operational efficiencies and scale them? Joel, construction firms experience growing pains all the time as they scale. What are the most important operational efficiencies that a construction business owner should focus on to ensure sustainable growth?
Yeah, and it's funny we're talking about the workforce and things because what I was thinking of, like really we're seeing an emerging of a digital workforce. People
Mhm.
need to have things out there. We mentioned the college programs and your Bulldogs help the Eagles win the Super Bowl. So I'll stop there. As we're going, then you're looking at the just the workforce that's coming into construction. They're used to having a device in their hands. They want to be able to see things, and expectations of those workers are, how do we collaborate? And now, that collaboration is going to help the companies grow. And we, from a technology side, the efficiencies that we have to be able to provide customers is really allow the software to enable those employees to manage themselves, manage the project better, overall by inserting and bringing the technology together. As I did a webinar a little bit ago, and more than 50% of the communication from the office to the field was still through email. That's just delayed information. Sure, it can get there, but they want to be able to. How do you grow? Well, you grow by being able to see information right there at your fingertips, make those decisions in the field while you have to do things, and be able to really, that helps the overall productivity. And from a labor component, because it's still a challenge for people to find skilled labor and retain that labor. As they train in one organization, they might move to another. But if the construction company can show that they embrace technology and they're able to scale with that technology, then their workers are even more will stay with them longer. They're not going to have that turnover, because that's another challenge that I've seen customers have is how do we retain the workforce, and not only to scale our business, but to make sure that they stay with us. And that's where technology products like Stack and Acumatica come into play. And it's the type of things that I see the digital workforce or the people coming in really need to have. So all that just helps companies grow.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I didn't know that statistic of 50% of communication between the back office and the field is via email. I feel like everybody's complaining about their emails all the time being flooded. Maybe there's a better way.
Yeah.
Just maybe.
Absolutely.
Um, so Shannon, from your experience working with, you said over 1,000 companies, what are the top bottlenecks that prevent construction firms from scaling efficiently, and how can they remove these roadblocks? I know that Joel mentioned a few of them, but do you have any additional?
Well, the first one I'm going to mention is going to be extremely self-serving because I always want to sell you new software. Um, it is that companies need to take seriously their budget on upgrading and moving to modern technology stacks in their construction space. We see, I see every week companies that are on QuickBooks. It's so interesting to me. 20 years ago, companies would come to me on QuickBooks that were 5, 10, $15 million and look to move to a new ERP system because they felt like they were falling behind from a true construction platform type system. 20 years later, that number has turned into now companies are staying on QuickBooks until 50, 60, 100, 150 million. And they don't understand the bottleneck that is going to create and the amount of change management that is going to cause at that level within their company. Because making a change when you're a $20 million company to the tech stack that's going to be more integrated, focused on construction, that's going to help you scale to that 100 million so much faster. Whereas these companies that are waiting until they're 100 million, they're screaming. Matter of fact, usually they've been screaming for 3, 4, 5 years, um, saying, we need better, we need better. If they wait till then, the impact is so big. So that's a major roadblock that I see people do. The other one is going back to the silos of information. It is really challenging for a company that is using 7, 8, 9 different products across the organization. It just makes it so much more challenging to move all of that into a single platform, whether that's a single platform of everything together in one place, or whether that's a platform of 2 or 3 best of breed products. Moving from that 8, 9 products down to that 2, 3 products, it's a lot of change management, and it makes it extremely difficult to handle, and will actually sometimes slow you down in that process. So my thing is, open up the pocketbooks earlier to get your tech stack where it needs to be. Open it up earlier so that your company can utilize that modernization to fuel your growth rather than suffer through your growth and then make the change.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Shannon. I think with scaling and with coming off of QuickBooks, so, I mean, we've experienced it with so many of our customers that have waited until that $120 million mark and then had a lot of issues in implementation from
Right.
not only the team, but from just infrastructure issues, all of those things that have just delayed their implementation, when if they started earlier and they started with a better roadmap, they could have achieved success at a quicker rate.
Yeah.
So Kendall, how does partnerships play into this? I know we're talking about operational efficiencies and how to make sure that we're removing these roadblocks. how can partnership between software providers and construction firms help optimize operational efficiency? Can you share some examples of partnerships that have driven some like more measurable results? We're talking to finance people, they like numbers, so
Yeah, I've got some for you. So,
yeah.
construction projects require careful planning and collaboration. That's a pretty well-known fact. Strategic partnerships will streamline processes through integration, through centralizing data management, through project tracking, and through financial control. Our partnership with Acumatica is obviously the easiest thing to give as an example here. Acumatica desires the ability to provide a full life cycle construction offering to their companies, to their customers. This means you need to start at pre-construction and end at decommission. And if you just have the ERP, you're missing a few nuggets. So as an industry leader that Acumatica is, they're using Stack to help fill a gap in the construction portfolio so that all of their customers have what they need from beginning to end. It's an example of how partnerships are driving measurable results. Takeoff and estimating can be a really big strategy for landing customers on the cloud when maybe they're not ready to make the big switch to an ERP. It can also be a really good opportunity to add something on to their existing construction customers. So the life cycle there, we have a lot of different areas in where the partnership is serving the customers. Some numbers for you is by offering this partnership, we can improve the overall win rate. We can increase, the attachment into the construction company's base. We can improve customer satisfaction. We can drive net retention up. So there's a lot of statistics that we're measuring within this partnership to be able to provide the different softwares that construction firms need to be able to run their business.
Awesome stuff, Kendall.
There's something you said earlier I want to add on to as well.
Yeah.
Strategies Group is a value-added reseller. I think that the word value added isn't always emphasized. We can call you a reseller, we can call you a partner, but the key there, that value add piece, is really important for construction companies. If you're adding different values to their evaluation process and to their overall technology portfolio, you're helping them efficientize, scale, all of the different things that they need. And so I really want to urge people not to underestimate the words value added, because there is a lot of value that partners are adding. So partnerships really is a key strategy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think a lot of the times people are confused as to what a VAR is, what a value-added reseller is, why they have to go through that channel rather than go directly with the software publisher, Acumatica. And it really is what you touched base on. We're a value-added reseller. We don't just resell the product. We help you implement it. We understand your business on a fundamental level to make sure that your processes put in place aren't going to just be thrown out the window the second that we're gone.